Action Comics 1067. Gail Simone writing with Eddie Barrows on the art. So this is the start of a new arc on Action Comics, and they're doing this sort of rotating team thing where every 3 issues we get a new team. So we're finally out of the Williamson double Superman book era, which was 3 months. So nice to be gone from that. Yeah, I mean, I think Gail Simone's an interesting name for me because I think she sometimes writes really, really good stuff, but it's not always a guarantee. So I came into this kind of being like, okay, let's see what she's got. My first thought when I opened the first page here was, I'm like, why does Lois look like she's in the 1960s? And then sure enough, the next page said, oh, this is a tale from early Superman's career. This is not a current day DC Universe story. I'm like, okay, fair enough. We're doing a bit of a period vibe to get that feel across. That's cool, right? I can dig that.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell, like, ignoring just Lois in that first page, look at all those on the right behind her, you know, with the big hair and the cigarette, you know, all of it. It's very like 70s rather than 60s, but
yeah. I mean, maybe that's specifically going for the Superman the movie kind of time frame. Even the hat that Clark's wearing kind of feels reminiscent of that era.
It does, yeah.
So this all starts off with Clark, Lois, and Jimmy, who are working for a TV station right now, as opposed to the Daily Planet. And they're here to get a story about a youth center, which turns out is Jefferson Pierce who's running this youth center. So it mentions this is the first time him and Clark have met, but not the last. Obviously hinting at their future as Justice Leaguers and whatnot. And it's all just kind of a nice, feel-good story about what he's doing for the youth. Someone's trying to shut down the youth center that he runs, and they're there to report on it. But out of nowhere, big giant beam of light comes down, and there's an alien who starts causing chaos and fighting and all sorts, tried to blast a gun, and Superman has to suit up and come down. I thought the sequence in here was pretty solid, and that you get a few pages without Clark after he's run off, where everyone's just kind of trying to survive the alien menace. So you get a nice little bit of build up of like, okay, we're going to get the big page where he swoops in and like lands and has his big entrance, and you know, he does. It looks pretty good. Eddie Barrows' art, I think, he's a very inky artist.
Always has been, yeah.
But you know, it looks good. But I think if it's going for this time period, I feel like, because it feels like a little bit grimier, and that kind of fits the 70s in a weird way.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones for me where I agree with that, but I also think inherently he's not a great fit for Superman.
I can see that.
He's not bad. Like he's still a good artist. Let me clear that up. I just wouldn't usually place him on a Superman, but I think this is as good as you can get with him by giving it this, you know, 70s-ish feel. Kind of suits it a little bit more, so kind of hides almost some of his, not his imperfections, but it accommodates his style better. And I wonder if that was maybe a conscious choice from Gail Simone to like, okay, knowing who I'm working with, knowing their style, but also knowing I'm doing a 3-issue Superman story, I will kind of give it this setting to make it work better, maybe. Because I don't think there's much really in this issue that justifies it has to be kind of set around that time period, other than it just suits his art better.
Not as of yet, and I'm not sure how much of the following issues might be set off planet, which would make it less relevant.
Largely irrelevant, yeah.
But I don't know how much they're going to spend off planet. It's unclear right now. But they, these aliens are looking for Superman. There's like a diplomat here as well as the sort of big hunter-looking alien dude.
Who is also a diplomat.
He was also a diplomat. The actual warriors from this alien race are really tough, apparently. And if they came, then you'd have no chance, apparently. I mean, who knows if that's true, but that's what the alien says. And the smaller alien seems like they've been enslaved into this race. They talk about how what was the Gaharans? Guardians of... Oh, sorry, Garathians. Garathians, that was it. They apparently sort of like pretend they're making deals with other alien races, but then sort of like lure them into like effectively a sports game to like give over their rights to their planet and race to be ruled by them, and that seems to be of what's happened. And this smaller alien's kind of saying, "Hey, Superman,
come help.
Yeah, can you help us? Can you do that?" We get some fun panels here. Superman crushing a gun and then biting part of the metal out of it. It's
yeah, that was a choice.
Yeah, I don't know. He's shown his more animalistic side to sort of maybe intimidate the aliens, perhaps.
I like the suit design that he has here with the black shield.
Yeah, the black shield with the red S and then the yellow outline.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, a little bit different, a little bit more old school looking. So the big thing here, though, is that when Superman agrees to take part in this trial, this challenge of some kind, the alien dude, the big one's like, "Hey, you need 2 seconds to come with you." And there's this panel where Superman's sort of thinking, and then in the background of the panel, they've drawn Batman and Wonder Woman as like, "Oh, that'll be his seconds. That'll be his, the Trinity's going to take on this challenge on their own." And I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense that you would think that." But then he walks over to Jimmy and Lois, and the alien's like, "Yeah, so you've chosen these two then," and then just beams them all away. It's like, so he was hoping for Batman and Wonder Woman as his second and third to fight this battle.
Lois and Mr. Action.
Jimmy wants to be called Mr. Action for some reason.
Just go with it.
The babes will like it, I guess. Is that what he's thinking?
Probably.
Is that what he's going for? Yeah, so the aliens have this sort of ultimatum here where they're like, "Hey, we've picked up one of your big aircraft carriers and we're hovering over Metropolis. So if you don't do what we say at any point, we're just going to drop it onto the city." And you see some reactions of Man-Pa Kent, you see Perry, you see even Lex sort of sitting in a chair, all menacing looking.
Oh, and then the big ship is powered by nuclear, so it's even more of a threat than just the weight of it.
Yeah. But would the impact make the nukes go off?
It's got nuclear. It's nuclear propellant though, so it's not nuclear missiles.
All right.
So it would probably be more of a leak situation.
A leak rather than an explosion, potentially.
I would assume, but then maybe the impact combined with that. I don't know. I'm not a physicist.
I'm just wondering if it would actually ignite into an explosion, or if it'd be more like more of a Chernobyl style, there's a danger zone because of the radiation coming out of it, as opposed to whatever else.
Neither are great.
No, neither are great. I'd have to imagine, and again, could be completely wrong here, but I'd have to imagine that if this happened, it would still be not as bad as Chernobyl, because I have to imagine the amount of radioactive substance is much less than a power plant that's actually, producing energy.
I honestly don't know how bad it would again, grain of salt, this is in-universe characters sniping at each other. But you have, Perry being like, "Oh, I'll destroy half the city," and the other one being like, "Oh, I'll destroy half the state," which are very different scales.
They are very different scales. Half the state's a lot. I mean, that to me says he expects radiation to get into the clouds and spread out a considerable
distance. What state is Metropolis supposed to be in?
Oh, jeez.
That's something it depends what you
I don't know.
Because obviously, depending on which version you go with, well, it's kind of Midwesty, right? Because that's where you're Kansas, But then there's also the argument of, well, it's supposed to be like a New York City equivalent, which obviously those states there are very different sizes already.
Yeah, I've never understood that Metropolis is also in Kansas. I've always taken it as a different state to Smallville.
Yes, but is it commuting distance?
I don't know. I feel like they're intentionally vague about this most of the time.
They are, probably to avoid this exact conversation.
Well, tough for having it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously if it's Rhode Island, the entire state's gone.
Yeah. When they say half the state though, that's not realistically that much bigger than just half the city, is it?
Yeah, but Texas, for example,
half the state there is a lot more.
I don't think there's a single nuke that would take out half the state of Texas even today. I could be wrong, but I don't think there is.
Yeah, I don't know enough about nukes, but but probably not.
I don't think so. People can correct us. And having said that, though, the hydrogen bomb is 1,000 times more powerful than the original atom bomb. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they can. Science is a wonderful thing. Let's take it. What I'm saying here is, let's blow half of Texas off the map just to find out. Sorry, Texas, you've been sacrificed for the greater good of science.
And all I can hear is the Texas community holding their hands up and saying, "No, please do Florida instead. We've not earned this." Anyway, either way, this is a whole thing. So Superman has to fight this big alien monster on behalf of the Garathians, who's called Galalax the Handsome. And I have to admit, the handsome did make me chuckle, and that feels like a very Gail Simone joke.
It does, yeah.
Because it's this big, multiple mouth teeth monster that's anything
Like
but humanoid.
6 eyes, yeah.
So Superman's firing his heat vision. The Justice League are trying to come in and help, but there's a big bubble over the city stopping them from getting in. So yeah, this alien race, the Garathians, are pretty strong. Apparently, they've got a lot of tricks up their sleeve. But Superman ultimately tangles the monster up because it's got a bunch of like tentacle type things, and he just tangles it up. He carries it out upwards, and he doesn't drop it. I don't think, does he? He just kind of.
I don't think so. No, he
gives it a big whack.
Yeah.
Either way.
Maybe that's the art's a little bit unclear. Maybe that's supposed to be him throwing it down.
Yeah, maybe. Because I think the panel before when he was carrying it up, I thought, he's going to like carry it up into space or something. But then the next panel, or the next page, I should say, is just like it's all just kind of like lying out as if it's.
Yeah, I think he does drop it by the look, because the way his arms are positioned.
Yeah.
I think the monster, it looks like his arms are flailing upwards, like it's falling.
Yeah.
I'd say a little bit unclear in the art, but I think that's what happened.
Yeah, but then the aliens like times up and releases the carrier anyway. So the big cliffhanger at the end of the issue is the carrier starting to fall out of the sky, and like Jimmy and Lois are on it, and they're sliding down. Because obviously a carrier is good for this kind of like moment because it's a big flat surface. That's kind of, it's designed to be a runway on a boat. So it's a big flat surface to slide things down. So it's a good final panel. It's a good final page. So yeah. I mean, I think this was a perfectly fun story. It doesn't feel like it's going to be an important story by any means. It feels like it's going to be a fun little romp, and it's
definitely a little bit fluffy. Just Gail Simone coming in and doing a 3-issue thing. It's fine. I like some of the stylistic touches of like committing to the bit of like it being in the past, even down to the comics craft level of using thought bubbles instead of narration boxes.
Yeah,
stuff like that make it feel more appropriate.
And even the idea that narration boxes are third person. Like it's like a narrator narrating rather than one of the characters having their thoughts.
It feels a lot more old school in terms, again, like from a craft perspective, not just visually in its setting.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. It just doesn't feel like she's going for like a big swing here. It just feels like, oh no, I don't think I'm ever going to remember these villains in a couple of months' time. But it seems like I'm going to enjoy reading this well enough as it's coming out for sure.
I agree. Yeah,
and it typically looks good. And like you say, I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right. Like that third person narration probably added a lot to how this feels to read, and did make it feel old school along with the art. So,
and it makes it like you say, we're not going to be like, it's not super memorable in terms of the villains aren't going to be like, in 6 months you're going to struggle. But I think it makes it stick out a little bit more as you're reading it. That it just feels a little bit different to most of the other comics that you'll read this week.
I think when we're reading or talking about the next issue, I'm probably going to struggle to remember what the name of the villains are.
I mean, you struggle to remember them and you read it like a couple hours ago.
Exactly, right? It's not like some super memorable new thing that's been introduced here. There is a backup, which I did not read, I will say.
I did not, because I avoid everything Rainbow Rowell writes.
I don't know, I just wasn't feeling the backup, just at a glance. So
it looks tonally so different to the main story. Like it's modern, clean, bright. And it's such like it's Tomi's art, which I've liked in a lot of books in general. It just feels so drastic, shifting away from that moody Barrow stuff the page before.
Yeah, I can't remember if Williamson did or not now, but I know Jason Aaron didn't have backups. He just got a bigger page count. He got like the full page count for his story, so it was 3 issues, but it was like more pages. And it's not enough to make it up to 6 issues or whatever, or maybe even 5 issues. But those extra 8-10 pages per issue, did make it feel like the
makes it 4.5.
Yeah,
overall.
Whereas Gail Simone's not getting that. She is just doing a straight 3 issue thing, unless she maybe gets like a bigger, like maybe the final part will have the full issue, maybe to like wrap it up or something. But
maybe for all we know, this could have been a 1-issue backup. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Maybe she just didn't need the full page for this time.
Well, the backup does say part 1, so it's going to at least have a second.
Oh, okay.
So, we'll see how that goes. All right, what are you rating Action Comics then?
I'll probably just give it a 7. I think it's pretty solid, pretty fun, but nothing astonishing.
Yeah, I think that's about fair. I might even stretch it to 7.5, but I don't think it gets into a great territory, certainly.